Welcome, everybody. Trying to get set up to bear with me. All right, we're going to get with this here. Okay, welcome, everyone, wherever you are. Welcome to the MC Wright Show. And I've been compelled to come forward with this information because I've been beat up so much on Twitter and Facebook, putting this information out on who are the true Native Americans. And we have to begin to really nail this down because we can no longer continue to talk about Pan Africanism out of Africa and basically the biggest part of all, which is the fact that the majority of so called African Americans are, in fact, indigenous to this land. There is overwhelming evidence of this. And as I go online, it has to be very important because there's so much opposition. The comments that I get, it's just unbelievable. And most of the negative comments come from people who look like me. They want to tell me that I'm African. They want to believe the Smithsonian and the American educational system. They rather believe that than to believe somebody who did the research. And so it's just really very important for so-called African Americans, and it's important for everyone, but especially for African Americans because we are in an identity crisis. We don't know who we are. That's why we keep changing ever so many years our nationality. A lot of people say black. Black, a people or a person is a noun. Person, place, or thing. Black is not a noun. That's an adjective. So we can't be black. And in fact, look at our skin. We're not black at all. We're copper color, red or brown, if you will. And so we have this problem in this community, particularly as some of you are, I'm sure, seen the or saw the video. Well, what's her name? Jane Elliott, who is come off as this very liberal person, very understanding person about racism and so forth. But then when you ask her on the question of reparations, she go, "Oh no, we're not for Black Americans. We got to give it to the Native Americans first and give them back their land." This is what she said. So the question comes then, Miss Jane, who are the true Native Americans? And I can answer that very easily because in America, North and South, which is ancient Egypt, Upper and Lower Egypt, there are more pyramids here than anywhere else in the world. Um, so who built the pyramids? So the people we call Native American could not have in, built the pyramids because if they created pyramids, why did they live in tents? And that doesn't mean that all the Native Americans are not descended of the original American Indian. Some of them are, but most of them are not. But proof that they was living in tents, proof that they didn't build the pyramid. Because why would you live in a tent when you building pyramids? So we can squash that, but we're gonna go even further. I'm gonna show you some pictures. We're gonna go through a little bit of some photographs because I showed some of these photographs online, and people say, "Well, that's not evidence." So give me a book, and I'm showing them the stone she heads with the Olmecs, and they say, "Well, that's not evidence." Are you kidding me? This is stone evidence. This is documented archaeological evidence. So seeing is believing. So I'm putting together a book. I got it online at Amazon if you can find it. It is can y'all see that? I'm trying to the people who are with God. Can y'all make that out? And I'm having a hard time trying to get it published because for obvious reasons. But I'm just going to go through some of this so that you can kind of understand that we are the indigenous people. Not that there were no other people other than us, but the original people is absolutely. Wait a minute. I mean, when you think about it, when we talk about the Olmecs, I call them the sheep people because they come from an area called the Chicalanca, which is modern day Veracruz and Tabasco near the Yucatan. And you see these big heads, and most of our historians are telling us that they are African because they have our features of here in America. So they got to be African. Everything got to be African. So let's go there for a minute before I even go to the sheep people. What do they tell you about Africa? They tell you that Africa is the oldest continent and that they found bones, the Louis Leakey bones, which are, they call it Lucy, which is like 2 million, maybe 4 million years old. And I read where they found some more bones in Africa that are 5.8 million years old. However, I thought I had it with me. Here in America, in the island of Guadalupe, which is Turtle Island, which is America, ancient India, uh, the Guadalupe woman. You can go research that. Look it up. The Guadalupe woman. They found bones, and I don't have it in front of me, 28 million years old. The Guadalupe woman, 28 million years old. So how is Africa older than America? We got the oldest mountain ranges here, and I got other information to prove that. I didn't put that out in the stack. The oldest mountain ranges, the oldest stones, the oldest bones. Uh, I mean, once you really get into it, America's the oldest continent. You have to do your own research. I'm taking you through the water, but you got to drink. The oldest continent that came up from the water, the first one, is America. And I heard a brother the other day say that America's name comes from a place in Nicaragua. Well, America was once Egypt, but it was called Tamari. It was called Tamari. And if you look at the word Tamari, you get America. America was ancient Egypt. In the Grand Canyon, there is the area called the Forbidden Zone. And why is it the Forbidden Zone? Because they have all of the archaeological evidence of ancient Egypt in gold, some of them in gold buster, King Akhenaten, and Nefertiti. How did that get into the Grand Canyon? Are the Afrocentrists and other people going to tell you that they took that information from Egypt and then they stuck it in the Grand Canyon and then put a thing over there and saying the Forbidden Zone? I don't think so. Before Egypt, America was called India. India Superior. That's why we have a Lake Superior. That's why we're the American Indians. You have a giant statue of the Buddha, which I don't have in front of me. The giant statue of the Buddha in the Grand Canyon. How did it get there? I mean, this is like more than 100 feet tall. How did it get there? Built into the cave walls of ancient Egypt. The India that is over there in the east, the first name was Bharat. I think that's the way you pronounce that. And it was also called Hindustan. It's only been India since I think 1947. It's about 170 years or so. So we know when Columbus came, he was looking for India. He was looking for India. So why was he here in the Americas? And people say, well, he never got on the mainland yet, but he was into the islands. And so Turtle Island, all the islands is America. And when he saw the people, he said they were godlike. He brought a Hebrew interpreter. Why did he bring a Hebrew interpreter? Because the American Indians and the biblical Israelites are the same people. The Exodus that they talk about in the Bible, it was from the USA or America over into Ireland and in the UK, in other parts of the UK. And we know that, and I didn't bring that today either, because if you look at most of the coat of arms, one of the major things they have on the coat of arms is the lion, as in Lion of Judah. And we know that King James was a Stuart, and he was called a Jacobite. They had the Jacobite wars and they pushed them out and they came over into the United States. But they came from the United States first. Understand that the American Indian, so-called African American, the American Indian have the oldest bloodlines on the planet. And so that's why I object to ADOS, because they say American descendants of slavery. Wait a minute. Hold up now. Hold up just one moment. Before we was brought into slavery, prisoner of war ship, we were running the world from America, from Tamari, from ancient India. So why would we call ourselves American descendants of slavery when we were brought into slavery? Before we were made slave, we were the rulers of the world. So why not American descendants of the first civilization? I think that's more fitting. It's more fitting. Then you got the foundational Black American. It's vague. Foundational. Now we are the original people, just the Aboriginal people, just like in Australia, even though they don't really like Aboriginal because it has a sort of negative connotation. But it's the same thing. We are the Aboriginal. We built the pyramid. The people they call Native American, they show you that they lived in tents. So if you built pyramids, why would you live in a tent? It showed you that they were immigrants and they came and set up shop in a tent before they built their houses. So they cannot be the original people. Some of them are descendants of the original people, but majority of them are not. And so Jane Elliott is talking about reparations and give their land back. Now I'm for that, but who are the original people? That would be the so-called African Americans. And I get so much flack by everyone, and particularly people from Africa, where you hate yourself, and even from the scholars in our community, self-hating Africans. And it's so much information. There's so much information out there. All right, let's go to the Olmec, the She people. We call them the She. Because if you look at Mexico, you have a Mexico, which is why you have the Mexica. They are the She people. So somebody tell me, why do so many Americans look like the She people? Why do so many Americans look like the She people? Can y'all see it? Why do so many Americans look like the She people if we are not from here? And we have our own scholars saying, well, they're from Africa. And we look like them because we're from Africa. Now, notice also, let me see if I can get it closer. Notice also that some historians have said that the gear on his head is a helmet. It is not a helmet. Look very closely. That is a fez. That is a fez. It's in stone. That's the best way they can put it in stone to show it is a fad, which means that they were the Moors. Muur. And they changed it later for all dark skinned people and then put the double zero, the OOR, the MOOR on Moors. And so there's a lot of confusion, but the first Moor is the so called Olmec, which is the She people. It's clear that that is a fez on its head. We are the Moors, but our land was called India. It was Mu at one time too. It was Mu. It was Mu, but it became India, and that's why we got the American Indian. And so when the Spaniards came, again, they were like, these are God-like. So they say Indios. And if you speak Spanish, you know Dios is God. Indios, the people who are with God. So Indian for me is the best definition of the best nationality that we can call ourselves in America because this was ancient India. There are maps of ancient India. India Nova. India Nova. Here's Big Chi. I call him Big Chi McBride. So how do so many celebrities look like the old man? Somebody explain that to me. How you gonna bring some people from Africa and then they look like stone heads over here? Oh, they can say, well, they came from Africa, but there are no stone heads in Africa. The only stone head that I am aware of in Africa is in Ethiopia, and they got that stone head from Mexico. Now let's go to some emblems of America. there are people saying, well, African come over here 100,000 years ago, and I don't care how long they come over here. We were already here. You got Abu Bakari, Mansa Musa, but that's in the 1300s. The 1300s, the pyramids are much older than that. Them stone heads are about 50,000 years old. They tell you 5,000, but I put another zero on it because they took the zero off to make everything over here in America seems newer or younger than in Africa. Now, if you notice the dress of this sister, this is not Africa. The dress says this is not Africa. Very similar, but it's not Africa. And it also tells you at the bottom, America. So why would Africans come over here, put on American garb, and then call their emblem in their country America when they're Africans? Does that make any sense to anybody? And this is like 1700, late 1700s. Another one. Look at the headdress. Look at the pearls around her neck. Look at the hoop earrings. That's all says America. The dress is American. American royalty. Most African Americans, or many African Americans, are royalty. And we have the names to prove it. My next video would be about the names and the coat of arms to tie it all in together, because we never, when we go to school, talk about royal American families. They never talk as if America didn't have any royal families. Because the royal families that are in the UK, they came from America. They set up shop. It was the Israelites. And we can prove it was the Israelites because the coat of arms had the Lion of Judah on there, among other things, associated with the Israelites. Now, people don't really realize the reason why they said Michael Jackson was dangerous. Y'all remember that album, Dangerous? Dangerous. And a lot of people wanted to write him off as just some kind of, not a person, not plugged into his history. Yet he gave you Remember the Time. He was trying to tell you who we were. Remember the Time. But I want to quote something that Michael said that's very profound. He says, the press is manipulating everything that's been happening. They do not tell the truth. They are lying. They manipulate our history books. The history books are not true. It's a lie. The history books are lying. You need to know that. You must know that. This is why they took him down. Buying the Beatles catalog, buying I think he had some of Everett stuff. I mean, he had all this and his stuff. He had all this money. They couldn't let no independent black man, so-called black man, be that powerful that they had to take him out because he was telling too much truth through his music. Now, some people, I've been posting up artifacts, and people say, well, that's just propaganda material. There's no proof to them Olmec's head. Where do you get the Olmec head? Where do you get the Olmec head? Okay, here is a picture of an American art piece. Let me pull back a little bit. American art piece. This is ancient America. This is not Africa. This is America. Now, somebody tell me, how does this brother look like that? I'm going to pull it back. How does this brother look like that if we came off slave ship from Africa? I mean, the head is in stone. And so it seems to me that those brothers knew that they created these stones so they can, generations now, thousands of years later, can say, hey, wait a minute, who we are. Imagine if they didn't, excuse me, imagine if they did not leave these stones. We'd be in serious trouble about our identity. But they left it in stone, and there are people saying, well, that ain't good enough. Give me a book. Give me a book. You're looking at the artifacts right here. You're looking at it. Here's another one. See the fast on the brother? Now, the person down below is one of the Soledad brothers. Some people with a little age on them, they know John Clutchette, one of the Soledad brothers. Doesn't he look like that brother? Doesn't he look like that brother? So the question is, how is all of these Americans, so-called Africans, look like an indigenous person in America? And everybody say this is the mother culture of America. Not from Africa. I don't care what they want to put everything on Africa. That's not Africa. This is the prototype of human being in the whole entire world, and they want to put it in Africa. How is all of these people looking like that now? Here's another brother. Everybody know. Otis Redding. Now this thing working here. Otis Redding. You see that? Peru, which is Upper Egypt. And there's a Peruvian statue, a Peruvian statue. Now, how does the brother Otis Redding look like the statue? How? Somebody tell me how. We all come from Africa, but we looking like all the monuments over here. Now here's proof that Hollywood is lying on who the Native Americans are, because if the Native Americans were the indigenous people, the original people, why did they dress the actor up like the Indian? He playing the Indian in a movie, but look who he looked like. You understand? Why, if the Indian is if the guy on the right, on your left, I guess if it's on the right, why did they dress him like the original Indian? You see, why? If he's the original Indian, you ain't gonna be copycatting on the brother. So this is full proof that they're lying about who the indigenous people are. Okay, we from Africa, right? We supposed to be from Africa. Everybody recognize this brother. Now, how is Smokey looking like a Winnebago brother? Somebody tell me that. Somebody explain it. Explain it. How is Smokey Robinson looking like the Winnebago brother? And you know what a Winnebago brother? The Winnebago Nation, where they lived. They lived around Lakes Superior. Anybody know where Smokey Robinson's from? Is he not from Detroit, near Lake Superior? There's another brother, and they say we black. Somebody tell me how we gonna be black? Look at that brother. How we gonna be black? Look at that brother. Everybody know that's Jermaine Jackson. Look at him. Red man. We are the original red people. He's a Choctaw native. His focus Choctaw and Blackfoot. Now look at the brother at the bottom. I'm not sure what this native is, but it's a striking resemblance to Jermaine Jackson. So how can that be? We come from Africa. So how are we looking like the Indians? If we come from Africa, please explain it, academia. Please explain it. Please explain it. Please explain it to us. Now here's one that's also very interesting. Don't you see him go in right in on that? This is in 1790 something. You have a drawing of three Indians from Brazil, which is why I know we was in North, Central, and South America. You have three drawings of some people in Brazil. So somebody please tell me, how does one look like Mike Epps? How does one look like DeAndre Bond? And how does one look like Lawrence Hilton Jacobs? This is almost 200, more than 200 years ago, a drawing of these three people, a drawing. How are we going to be from Africa? Somebody please explain this to me. Explain it. Explain it. Afrocentrics. Explain it, Smithsonian academics. Explain it. Explain that. If we from Africa, explain it. Now I saw this brother here. I think it was on the Skip Gates thing, finding your roots. And they took this brother back to some continent in Africa. I'm going to show you the Indian brother first. Now, see, look at this guy. He's a chief. Let me see, what is this nation here? I don't have my glasses here. I can't. What I do with it? I like to say the nation, but I don't have them with me. So anyway, he's an Indian chief, Placido. His name is Placido. Indian chief in America. Now look at him. Look at him. Now, isn't that a good resemblance of that brother? And he's saying this brother is from Africa. And it could very well be, but for sure he looked like an American Indian. So how is the brother from Africa looking like the American Indian? You see, this needs to be explained. Now, some people say the Phoenicians were over there, and Phoenicians is the root of the English language. Phoenician Hebrew text is the root of the English language, which in a sense we have our own language, English. It doesn't originate in English except for by way of the Anglo-Saxons. And again, the Saxons are Isaac's sons. They're not white people. It's a big lie, they're not white people. So the Phoenician is at the root of the language. This is a Phoenician, the bust of a Phoenician. And show him. So we see the brother Dougie Fresh. Where's Dougie Fresh from? He's from Turtle Island, from Barbados. That's Turtle Island. This is Phoenician. So if he's from Africa and Phoenicians are over there, why is this brother looking like them? You see, it's too many like this. It's too much of that. Osiris and Isis. I saw and I said. I saw and I said. This is not taken from Africa. It is taken from El Salvador. This is El Salvador. Oh, I meant to show you. I failed to show you, excuse me. The Father Crespi collection. Now, Father Crespi was in Ecuador. In Ecuador. They found all of these Egyptian relics and artifacts in Ecuador. Ecuador. Do y'all see it? So y'all want some receipts? Check out Father Crespi and check out all the information of Father Crespi collection. El Salvador. El Salvador. Why is Egyptian relics in El Salvador? Because America was North Central South America was ancient Egypt. Upper and lower Egypt. They call upper in Peru Upper Egypt because Peru uh, in Cusco in Peru, which is ancient Jerusalem, um, they're like 12,000 feet up in the air. So they consider that Upper Egypt, and then North America, uh, Lower Egypt. So that's where you get the Upper and Lower Egypt. Oh, I have one more here. People seen this brother in the movies. Somebody tell me, why does he look like a Native American? Oh, y'all beginning to get the picture here. Who are the true Native Americans? Now we're going to do our esteemed sister, Frances Quest Welsey. Why do so many Americans look like the Olmecs, look like ancient art, and look like relatively recent Indians? Because we are the Indians. They lied to us so that they can take our land. They told us that we came from somewhere else, so we're looking over there, and so we have no fight in the game over here. And so people confuse the wicked system with the land. That's two different things. They set the wicked system up on our land. And they told us that we came from somewhere else. They told us we came from Africa on slave ships, which was one of the biggest lies ever told. Now, did some of that happen? Of course, some of that happened, but not in the manner in which they said it happened. It didn't take millions and millions and millions and millions of people. How you gonna go in the country years after year after year and just take millions and millions and millions of people out of somebody's country? That don't even make no sense. That don't even sound right that you can even do something like that. Millions, millions and millions and millions. There are over 500 million plus. It could possibly be a billion so-called black people in the Americas, North, Central, and South. But easily, we can say 5 million plus. How do you get 500 million plus from whatever millions they said came over here? 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, which is a lie anyway. But let's give them 20 million. How you gonna get 500 million, out of 20 million people with all the killing and the lynching and the jailing of the people and the sterilization of the women? And so how you gonna get 500 million? We were already here, and it's time everybody understand that, especially you black man and woman, so-called black men and women of the Americas. This is ancient Egypt here. This is the land of milk and honey right here. The Bible is a historical document, especially the Old Testament. The New Testament is something else. But the Bible is a history book. It is not a religious book. That's how they got us. They took our history and turned it into a religion. It's a history book. It tells the history. There's not an African diaspora. I mean, sure, there is somewhat of a diaspora. They went to, Africans went wherever they went along the planet. But that big diaspora was the Israelites. And the history book tell you, the history book called the Bible tell you. In Deuteronomy 28, I will scatter you among all nations. So that's where the confusion is when people say, well, the Igbo and the Yoruba, they're from Africa. The Ethiopians and the Somalis, they're from Africa. No, they're not. They went over there. They came from here. They told us in reverse. They made us think that all the Africans came over here. No, the Indians went over there and built society over there in Africa, from South Africa, from South America. Canada, North America, down to Central America, South America, and over to Africa. And then they went the other way to Ireland, the UK. It was the Israelite diaspora. And the Israelites were Ethiopians. America was Ethiopia first. That name applies to America first. Did not Solomon, was he not an Israelite? Did they not set up the Israelite kingdom in Ethiopia? That was an Israelite kingdom. It's the Israelites, the Egyptian / Ethiopian / Egyptian / Israelites that went all over the planet. So we have to stop this African thing, because this will be our true liberation, not just for African people, but especially for, the American people, but for everybody. Because our biggest problem in the world is that we believe the world started in Africa when it started in America. And they got everybody hating everybody hate on the American black man. Everybody hate the American Indian. They teach everybody to hate, in every society, they teach everybody to hate the American Indian, call them all kinds of names. And once that's cleared up, that wait a minute, we are the oldest bloodlines right here, and we have the names to prove it. My next video, we're going to be dealing with the names, the coat of arms. They made us think we had slave names. We don't have slave names. We do not have slave names. It's very interesting that I'm changing my name back to my original name, and I'm having more problem changing my name back to my original name than when I changed it the other way. And that only tell me one thing. They know I'm waking up. They know I awoke. I have awakened. And so they don't want me to claim my name, so to speak. So now they know, hey, he know who he is now. The majority of us are not from Africa. You can say 5% or something, 10%, whatever that percentage is of some voyages over here. Because if we were from Africa, how come most people they don't know that? They don't know their names in Africa. They don't know where they came from in Africa. They don't know the language they spoke in Africa. They don't know anything, but yet they claim Africa. I'm African. But people in America, the American Indian, so-called African American, to prove that we are the indigenous people is the Trail of Tears. I'm going to talk about that in another video, but the Trail of Tears, they documented as many people as they could on the Trail of Tears. They had different roads, the Henderson Road, the Dog Road. When you look at the names of the Dog Roads, why are the names, the majority of the name, 95% are Johnson, Smith, and Jones, if you know what I mean. The names that so-called African-American people have. Why are our names on the road Johnson, Smith, and Jones when they're supposed to be the Indians? Why aren't the Indians' name on the roads? Why are our names on the road that was on the Trail of Tears? Somebody answer that question for me. Academia, answer that question. Pan-Africanists, answer that question. And why are a number of the coat of arms with our names on it got pictures of black folks, so-called black folk on them, if it belonged to white folk? Somebody explain that. We're going to get into that on another video. I try to want to keep it down to a minimum because, everybody's time is valuable. I just want to get some information in there so we can begin to harness the truth about our identity Because as long as we look into Africa, we're going to miss the whole thing about our history over here. And it's so obvious out there. Once you go down that rabbit hole, and I dare anybody, especially Pan-Africans, because a lot of them, they don't go down that rabbit hole. They just stay with the African script, and so they're gonna stay there. But if you ever go down that rabbit hole and search the black Indian, so-called, I don't like the Indian, the American Indian, you're gonna come to the same conclusions. I was a Pan-Africanist. I even changed my name. So I'm getting it back. Milton Culler's right. And I can be proud of that because I know the history. I did my genealogy, at least some of it. And it took me back to northern Georgia, right where the Trail of Tears, when they found the gold. Where they found the gold in northern Georgia, my ancestor, Jim Culler, the Reverend Jim Culler, was there in 1829. And his son in 1847 in northern Georgia, right where they found the gold. Those are Cherokee people. Aniuia, so-called Cherokee, Aniuia. See, that's my roots. I know that's my roots by my genealogy. I don't need no DNA. I don't know any relatives in Africa. I don't know anything, We just accept it because we wanted to grab hold of something because we don't know who we are. And so since we look like Africans, or Africans look like us, so okay, African, so that's convenient. Okay, we're from Africa. Especially West Africa, even though the first people went to East Africa, the Ethiopians, the Somalis, over in there, Tanzanians. But West Africa, we went there. Malay, all kinds of signs of the Malian Moors, that they call them over here. The Dogon said that folk came from Ethiopia, but what Ethiopia are they talking about? They're not talking about Ethiopia and Ethiopia. They were talking about American Ethiopia. It's time we get on that page, even if the Afrocentrists don't do it, Pan-Africans don't do it. The American education, they're not going to do it anyway, unless they have to be forced to it one day, and forced to admit the truth that we don't come out of Africa. Africa comes out of us. We are the oldest bloodlines, and we have the names to prove it. If all these people that came into America and went into Europe were African, why are the names on the coat of arms English names, French names, Spanish names, all names that come out of Tamari, ancient Tamari, which is America? Why aren't there African names on the coat of arms in Europe? If they came, if Africa was ruling Europe, Africa didn't rule Europe. That was the Israelites. And they had these names because it was Hebrew, and then they formed it into English. Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Isaac sons. That's the root of the English language, the Hebrew. The Israelites ruled Europe, not Africans. They keep saying Africans. No, the coat of arms prove it. Tell me why there's so many Lion of Judah on the coat of arms. And we're going to deal with that in the next one. The coat of arms. Tell me why. So they made us think we had slave names. Do you think the slave master gonna let all these people with Jonathan Smith and Jones name go on a Trail of Tears with the Indians? I don't think so. How come the Indians' name not on the Indian roll? Or the Native American? Let me say that. Why the Native American name is not on the Indian roll? Why all the names that we have on the Indian roll? 95% of Jonathan Smith, Jones, Jackson, all that stuff that we know. Why is that on the Indian road? Because we are the Indian. I'm tired of this lying out here in academia I'm tired of it. So forget them. If they ain't not gonna tell you the truth, if the Pan African is not gonna tell you the truth, then you get the truth for yourself. You know it for yourself. In my book, I have over 300 sources. Over 300. There's no more. I took the time to do it. There's no more escaping this truth. There's no more escaping. A history of the African Olmecs. Just reading some of the name. A pictorial history of America. A study of race and gender in African American. Ancient America. America is Atlantis and the Moorish Empire. Ancient scripts of South America. Dr. Clyde Winters. Ancient cities in the New World. I mean, it's just a number of information books out of the Olmec theory by Mayo. Explorations of the Aboriginal. Secrets about Tennessee's ancient Egyptian temple revealed. Check that title out. Secrets about Tennessee's ancient Egyptian temple revealed. Y'all heard of Memphis? And they put it over there. Hebrew artifacts in America. Book of Mormon evidence.org. Hebrew artifacts in America. North America, oldest mummy returned to the U.S. The ruins of antiquity in ancient America. The last Aboriginal heritage of the so-called Negro. Origin of the first American. I'm just kind of reading, just give you some ideas of this information that's out there. American indigenous people over paper genocide and reclassified. Ancient Hebrews in the United States. Antiquities of Tennessee. Archives of Aboriginal knowledge. American accurate description of the New World empires of Mexico and Peru. Ancient Atlantean colony in the Grand Canyon. Ancient Egyptian lost city and the Buddha statue discovered in the Grand Canyon. The greatest DNA hoax, African Americans and the truth about Pan-Africanism. Asir Dukatir. The video, look it up. Ancient Egyptian of New Mexico by Barbara Hallirock. The Mound Builders' Works and Relics. I mean, ancient monuments of the Mississippi Valley. Mound builders of antiquity. Mysteries of the Holy Stones. The tribes of Israel. The Black American Handbook for Survival through the 21st Century. Before Columbus, links between the Old World and ancient America. Mysteries of the Newark Holy Stone. Turtle Island. View of the Hebrews by Ethan Smith. The Untold Legacy of the American Indian Slave who were illegally sold as Negroes. India once ruled America. G. Matlock. And so forth. It just goes on, prehistoric man in America. Take those titles out, Google it. You know, I'm giving you it right here. I'm giving it to you right here. Ancient cities of the New World. Ancient Hebrews in the USA. Uh, yes, of the U.S. Ancient Hebrews in the U.S. And a lot of people say, we ain't Hebrews, you know, we're not the Hebrews. And it's all sorts of passages in the Bible that tells you who we are. And then people wrote the books from Babylon to Timbuktu, moves up, we the Black Jews. I mean, it's just a number of material out there, but we are not plugged into that information. So I'm trying to help with that. Artifacts of ancient, artifacts of Christ in North America. Ancient Nagas founded Egypt. See, we were the Nagas, and they turned around and called us the niggas, but we the Nagas. We the Nagas. Ask the people in India today, India, who the Nagas are. That's us. We the Nagas. We not niggas. We the Nagas. Look up Naga. They'll take you to India, but keep searching. It came from here because the Mayans are here. The Buddha's mother's name is Maya. Mayat is just another word for Maya. Ancient Maya. I mean, the Maya, the balance, the system of balance. You know, Maya, Maya. That's the same thing. And you know, I always show you the modern day Mayans. You say, oh, that's the Mayans. They can't, you're not Mayans, you know. Oh, I meant to show you that when I had that picture here, and I don't have it. I'm running out of time. I wanted to show you the ancient Mayan, but we'll get to it in another post. Did Peru, did ancient Peru and Egypt share the same religion? Israelite migration from Spain to Britain and to Ireland. There's another book. You see, it tells you the Israelites ruled Spain, all of that over there, the Israelites. All of that's the Israelites, the Roman Empire. That was the Israelites. Charles V, Israelites, they're not white people. Those are Israelites. This is why we know the people that call themselves Jews was playing the damn game with everybody. With this Semitic shit. And I'm sick of that shit. They're not even Semitic. And then calling somebody you anti-Semitic. And they claiming our identity. And most of the world know damn well we're the original people. We didn't call ourselves Jew, we're the Israelites. They called the word Jew out of Judah. And we got to put that to rest. We got to put that to rest. We are the original people. The Hebrew Israelites, the Israelites. The origin of the Phoenicians, on the origin of the Phoenicians. The original history of ancient America. Uh, I mean, I can go on and on. It's 300 of these. I just want to throw some out to show you that there's some representation, a lot of documentation, a lot of receipts on who we are over here. It's just that the American educational system do not teach you this. Tell you nothing about the royal families of America, which is us. And we have the names to prove it. And we're going to do that on another video about the names so we can show you who you are. Because it's time that the African, so-called African American people get on board with who we are. But once we do, it's all over. We won't be a Negro no more. We won't be black. We won't be African American, colored, none of that stuff. We will know that we are the original American Indian. So with that, I want to wish you peace, love, and revolution. And I'm out. Yeah.